Hello and welcome to this horror edition of the Rogues Gallery. So when you're looking at the enemies of a demonic antihero from hell, you could be forgiven for thinking that he must have a horrific Rogues Gallery. Yes, in this episode, we will take a special look at the villains of the former mercenary Al Simmons, better known as Spawn. We will begin our tour of Spawn's Rogues Gallery with a former ally, but with friends like Chapel, who needs enemies? Bruceinson was a mercenary who was initially Al Simmons' comrade in Operation Night Strike. However, the two came into conflict when Simmons questioned the rules of their brutal missions and was betrayed by Stinson, who helped kill Simmons, sending him to hell. This would cause Simmons to return as the superpowered Spawn, who Stinson was no match for. Stinson would solve this problem by committing suicide, only to be resurrected as Lord Chapel, a horseman of the apocalypse. Now working for the devil, Chapel would continue to assassinate more of his former mercenary teammates. Our next character was also integral in orchestrating the death of Al Simmons because he is Jason Wynn. Wynn serves as the director of an umbrella department for the CIA called the United States Security Group. Despite being a mere mortal, Wynn is considered the most powerful man in the world due to his position. Capable of extreme evil, Wynn would abuse his position of power and was responsible for Al Simmons' death when he began asking questions about his unscrupulous mercenary work. Ultimately, Wynn would make a deal with the devil, trading the soul of his best soldier for psychoplasm, the powerful supernatural substance that contains the essence of hell. We will now take a look at the more cybernetic villains in Spawn's Rogues Gallery, starting with Overt Kill. Assassin Nicholas Rocker was killed only to return as a cyborg with the killing capabilities of entire armies. Hired by Tony Twist and now operating under the name of Overkill, this mean machine would go on a rampage across the United States in an attempt to lure Spawn into battle. Despite some hard-fought encounters, Spawn would ensure that this cyborg would be terminated in battle. Twist would secretly have Overkill rebuilt so that he could continue to serve the mob. Another cybernetically enhanced villain on this list is the character known as the Curse. This green armoured villain would make quite a dramatic introduction as he blew a hole through Spawn with his futuristic arm cannon. Before his first encounter with Spawn, Philip Cran removed his right arm to show his dedication to God and wished to lead heaven's soldiers against the armies of hell. In time, Cran would become a billionaire obsessed with studying the occult. He would subsequently use his wealth to rebuild and weaponize his arm just so that he could fight Spawn and take his powers, as he believed him to be a soldier of heaven. However, his arm proved to be ineffective against Spawn, who defeated him in battle, destroyed his bionic arm, and crucified Curse upon a wall in Rat City. Eventually, the Curse would escape the alleys and return to his mansion to reflect on his failure. Believing that his place in heaven was lost, he decided to undertake extended research on hell so that he might overthrow Malbolgia and recreate hell as his own kingdom. The Curse would begin his plot by performing further physical enhancements to himself, combining cybernetics with demonic aspects. We now move on to some of Spawn's female antagonists, but we will segue nicely into a villain who is not a cyborg, but is obsessed with creating one. She is the woman known as Margaret Love. As one of Spawn's most lethal female enemies, Margaret Love is actually a Soviet agent named Nadia Vladova. Under her guise as Margaret, she pretends to be a philanthropist who actually lures the destitute as guinea pigs into a gruesome cyborg experiment. This program involves using the severed heads of her victims to create a hideous cyborg weapon. Despite being a one-shot villain for the Spawn-Batman crossover, I think she still deserves a place on the list. We move from one lethal lady to the next as we have the deadly assassin known as Jessica Priest. As one of the most unbalanced and deadly assassins in Spawn's Rogues Gallery, Jessica Priest deserves her place on this list. Jessica's life would take a shocking turn when she was only a 5-year-old girl. Whilst outside her house roasting marshmallows, she became fascinated by the flames and set her parents and the house alight. Jessica would spend several years receiving shock therapy for this, but was released years later as a teenager before beginning another killing spree. This included killing her entire school in an attempt to eliminate all the jerks in the world. After another spell in prison, Jason Wynn offered her a chance to sharpen her killing techniques by working for him, which she accepted. Soon after, Priest would take part in a war in the Middle East where she murdered many men and even launched several missiles at Israel, inciting further conflict. Under the orders of Jason Wynn, Jessica was responsible for murdering Albert Simmons as opposed to the originally considered suspect in Chapel. As an agent of hell, you would expect Spawn to clash with some heavenly beings, and our next character will begin our tour of his more angelic enemies. Angela is an angel bounty hunter from heaven who would use her Hellspawn hunting permit to oppose Spawn and even attempt to kill him. However, during their encounter, she was defeated despite her superior experience. Subsequently, Spawn and Angela would become trapped in a pocket dimension. However, on their way back to Earth, the two started a romantic relationship. Unfortunately, Angela was killed during the battle with Malbolgia, and Spawn returned her body to the angels. We will now take a look at Heaven's answer to Hellspawn, as we have the Redeemer. The Redeemer is literally the antithesis of Spawn, as he belongs to a group of angels in heaven who have the unenviable task of dealing with Hellspawn. When the ethereal masters seek the assistance of the Starhive to create soldiers for the forces of God, they select mortals they deem worthy and transform them into angelic warriors. The Redeemer placed Spawn on his hit list when he became too powerful for the angels to cope with. As a result, Heaven created a deadlier being to dispatch him in the anti-Spawn. Although only the purest mortals on Earth can become the Redeemer's host, he would not go about the process in an angelic manner and even tried to kidnap one of Spawn's friends just to lure him out. We will now transition from these heavenly creatures to some more hellacious beings in Spawn's Rose Gallery. Billy Kinkade is every parent's worst nightmare, as he would use his ice cream truck to lure children into their deaths. This serial killer killed so many children that Simmons was hired to end him once and for all. Despite this, the police got to Kinkade first, and as a result, he was only placed in an institution due to his mental condition. It was not long before Kinkade was released, and he immediately reverted to type as he went on another child-killing spree. Eventually Spawn would kill Kinkade, however his spectre would return to terrorize children again. His ghost would force people to act out their most violent impulses. Kinkade would now evade capture by jumping from body to body before persisting with his heinous crimes. Each murder damns the souls of his victims and allows him to grow stronger. Another macabre and eerie villain within this gallery is the one aptly named as the Freak. Brian Kulbixi was a normal man who was driven to insanity when his wife decided against having kids. As a result, he would resort to living in a sewer under a mansion he built. During this time, Spawn rescued the Freak from a gang of thugs who would later convince him to kill Dr. Zolorian and avenge the death of his family. After performing the assassination, Spawn realised that he had been tricked into murdering the Freak's own therapist, and the Freak was genuinely insane. The Freak would subsequently reappear with a gang of thugs who overpowered and supposedly killed Spawn when they seized him in the dead zone. However, the Freak would later be killed by Spawn, who suffocated him with insects that were created when Spawn took the Freak's inner evils and gave them a tangible form. Seeking to return to their place of origin, they tried to re-enter the Freak, but suffocated him in the process. Our next antagonist is arguably one of Spawn's most popular demonic villains, because he is the Violator. As one of the 5 Flebiak brothers, this direct agent of hell has the task of grooming Hellspawn for their roles in hell. When not in his true demonic form, the Violator masquerades as a fat middle-aged creepy clown in order to hide amongst the living realm. This demon would fight against Spawn on numerous occasions when visiting Earth to conduct the will of his masters, and always proved to be more than a match for the young Hellspawn. Despite this, the Violator was not allowed to kill a Spawn without an order from his superiors. Eventually, the Violator would disobey his masters and attack Spawn, who defeated him. This unruliness would not go unpunished, as Malbolgia would trap the Violator in his clown form, burdening him with mortal weakness. Speaking of entrapment, we can now move swiftly on to our next villain, who you wished was permanently incarcerated. The demon known as Urizen is so despicable that both heaven and hell collaborated to imprison him in the void, as destroying him seemed impossible. Although entrapping Urizen is incredibly difficult, freeing him is not. All it takes is a small sacrifice of 13 fanatics during a full moon. Once summoned, Urizen is capable of causing extreme chaos, often making people kill one another when under his influence. Even when Spawn tried to intervene, he was quickly defeated by the demon. It would take his resurrection with the power of Greenworld, which allowed him to imprison Urizen once again. As one of the oldest demons in Spawn's universe, Urizen is said to be older than time, and possibly even older than Satan himself. Our next demonic entry really does echo the term handsome devil, because he is Mamon. This seemingly suave and sophisticated gentleman is actually a demon who is known for making attractive deals with humans in return for their souls. As a member of a group of angels known as the Forgotten Ones, Mamon and his kind were banished from heaven and cast into hell as they refused to fight against their fellow archangels during the war in heaven. This powerful deity from hell is one of many rulers who was thrilled to see Malbolgia forcefully abdicated from his throne. Whilst Malbolgia was the king of hell and ruler of the 8th sphere, Mamon sat between Mal and Satan within hell's hierarchy of power. Speaking of the devil, our penultimate entry is the one who covered for him in his absence, Malbolgia. Quite possibly Spawn's original enemy and arch-nemesis is the greater demon Malbolgia, who tricked Simmons into becoming a Hellspawn in the first place so that he could see his wife again on Earth. This demon is so powerful that it would substitute as the ruler of hell in Satan's absence. Malbolgia would cause immense torment for mortals and was Spawn's primary target. To give the devil his due, our final entry is arguably the most villainous character of all time because he is none other than Satan himself. Although Malbolgia was the acting ruler of hell, he was only keeping that seat warm for its rightful owner, Satan. Upon his return, Satan would prepare his greater demons in his war with God for control of Earth. Eventually, Satan dispatched his minions to Earth's domain to kill Wanda Blake and had her soul taken to hell, where he awaited Spawn to rescue her. Upon his arrival, Satan offered him a chance to relinquish his suit in exchange for Wanda's life. Realizing that this trade would leave him vulnerable, Spawn refused the offer and Satan accepted his response as a declaration of war. Spawn would immediately utilize a surprise attack and escape with Wanda, leaving Satan furious. Well, that brings us to an end of this Rogues Gallery. I hope that you enjoyed this presentation of Spawn's villains. However, if I did omit any of your favourite characters, then please list them in the comment section. Also, please let me know which other Rogues Galleries you'd like me to visit. But until next time, it's goodbye from me. Take care.